Kayla's nasal gill flaps twitched as acrid air filled her thoracic lungs, an involuntary sign of consciousness, though she immediately regretted it. The world was not as it should be. Her visual cortex registered fractured spectrums, red lightning, carving sideways across a forest that looped back in on itself like it couldn't decide which decade it belonged to. She was lying in the remains of her research pod, one side bent like origami and the other swallowed by a sinkhole pulsing faintly, with unnatural blue light. Her translator module hissed errors, and her limb orientation was wrong, left elbow joint hyperextended, subdermal sensors offline. She had 32 fractures, 3 internal tears, and a neural relay dripping cerebrofluid. Survival probability, 11.3%. Not ideal. Excellent, she muttered, voice a whisper in her own melodic dialect. Then a shadow moved across the wreckage, bipedal, armed and grumbling. Of course it's raining dimensional static, the voice muttered. Because I haven't suffered enough this week. The figure emerged from between fanged vines and spitting mud with the casual confidence of someone who regularly punched nightmares. Human, female, armored in patched tactical gear faded by time and weather. She paused when she saw Kayla, tilted her head, and said with a tone drier than bone, "Well, you look like my ex's lizard collection had a baby with a hoverbike accident." Kayla tried to sit up. Bad idea. She groaned in multiple octaves. The human knelt, weapon slung across. Her back, something old, probably magnetic. "You bleeding? Leaking? Or is that sparkle juice just how you aliens cry?" Kayla activated a basic distress ping with her forearm node, which immediately shorted out and smoked. "Let's go with leaking," she rasped in translated English. "You speak?" The human raised a brow. "Damn, I was kind of hoping you were a pet I could teach tricks." She pulled out a medjol injector, gave Kayla's arm a cursory glance, then stabbed the gel into what she assumed was muscle. "I'm Rhea Morgan. Congratulations, Sparkle Butt. You've crash-landed on Earth's weirdest continent. Not that the rest are better. This place eats drones for breakfast." Kayla's vision flickered again, and for a moment, the human's face split like a misaligned simulation before stabilizing. "You're real," she croaked. "I mean, I've had worse hallucinations, but they never swore this much." Rhea offered a crooked smile. "I get that a lot. Welcome to the Pacific Fracture Zone, formerly Oregon. Now it's Oregon-ish. Time loops on Tuesdays, the wildlife screams in Base 9, and the weather once apologized to me." With an ease that spoke of grim routine, Rhea began stabilizing Kayla's joints with crude but effective splints made from thermal tape, carbon rods, and what appeared to be a broken femur from some long-dead four-legged creature. Kayla tried to analyze the situation logically, but the sheer impossibility of this terrain, of surviving here without going mad, was staggering. "You live here?" she asked. "Patrol it," Rhea replied. "Was special ops before the rift storm hit. Now I babysit dimensional refugees and punch cryptofauna until it stops chewing on power cables. You're lucky I found you before the fog howlers did, or the thought leeches, or gravity inversion." Kayla blinked slowly. "You made up at least 2 of those." "Nope," Rhea said cheerfully. "Though to be fair, thought leeches are more like social media influencers with teeth." She lifted Kayla with surprising gentleness and slung one of her thinner arms around her shoulders. "Your ship's toast, but if you're lucky, some of your gear might still be retrievable. You got anything useful in that tin can besides fancy lights and a bad crash record?" Kayla nodded, barely. "Data core, rift metrics. If I don't retrieve it, containment protocols across 6 sectors will fail. The collapse might spread." Rhea whistled. "So, you're not just a science tourist, huh?" Kayla stared at her. "I'm an astrobiologist, a peaceful one. We observe, we document. We're not trained for this." "Well, now you are," Rhea muttered, handing Kayla a heat-damp blanket while scanning the terrain with night vision goggles. "And don't worry. I've adopted worse strays. Kayla slumped into her grasp, the pain giving way to numbed exhaustion. As thunder cracked sideways in the sky, she muttered, "This planet is insane." Ria's laugh was short and dry. "Sweetheart, you haven't even seen Thursday." The fractured wilds stretched endlessly before them like a fever, dream sculpted by an angry god with a surrealist streak. Kayla limped beside Ria, her injuries still mending thanks to a combination of Thalassa regeneration serum and old-fashioned human grit. The terrain had no consistent geometry. Trees grew upside down, bleeding sap that glowed like starlight. Rivers curled midair and cascaded sideways before vanishing into nothing. Creatures in the mist blinked in and out of dimensions, as if debating whether they should exist at all. Ria moved through it all with the weary competence of someone long past the point of disbelief. "Rule 1, she said, gesturing toward a flock of winged quadrupeds frozen mid-flight, their wings flapping despite being trapped in a pocket of paused time. "Don't trust anything that moves, or doesn't, or blinks wrong, and definitely don't follow the singing." Kayla, for her part, kept a scanner clutched tightly in one of her 4 hands, though half its readings came back. Scrambled. "This ecosystem isn't just foreign, it's layered. Interdimensional biomes stacked like wet pages. You weren't exaggerating. Earth is broken." "Yeah," Ria replied, her rail rifle Mabel slung over her back. "But she's our broken." Their goal was simple in theory: reach the old crash site, recover the encrypted data core from the wreck, and make their way to Fort Ember's uplink relay. In practice, the world refused to cooperate. They'd already dodged a storm front that aged Ria's jacket 3 years in 10 seconds, fought off a serpentine pack beast with mirror eyes, and a scream that made Kayla's bone fluid vibrate, and slept under a melted overpass guarded by a talking fungus that insisted it was the mayor. And still, Kayla marveled, not just at the horrors, but at the human beside her. "You laugh a lot," she noted one night, as they huddled around a thermal cube, its heat warding off the cold from 5 time zones simultaneously. "Not really," Ria replied, sharpening her knife with a casual hand. "I just get sarcastic when the universe tries to murder me." Kayla tilted her head, bioluminescence flickering in thoughtful pulses. "I think you're grieving." Ria froze for a second, just long enough to let the silence stretch, then scoffed. "You're not wrong, Space Bambi. But out here, grief gets you eaten, or worse, confused with optimism." Their banter became a lifeline, a defiance against the madness that surrounded them. "So," Ria asked as they passed through a pocket jungle where gravity flickered on and off like bad mood lighting, "how many limbs is normal for your species? Just so I know if you're injured or just fancy." Kayla gave her a sidelong look. "We usually don't have to explain our anatomy to creatures that evolved from throwing poop." "Hey," Ria grinned, "we moved up to sarcasm and laser weapons. That's evolution, baby." As they moved deeper into the zone, the environmental inconsistencies grew stranger. A section of forest shimmered with crystalline leaves that whispered Kayla's thoughts back to her. A desert basin screamed continuously in a tone that registered only to Kayla's sub-aural senses. They crossed a narrow bridge of petrified bone over a chasm filled with what Kayla believed were sentient shadows, entities that didn't move so much as observe. "They're watching," Kayla said. "Then smile pretty," Ria quipped. "You're the diplomatic one." They reached the outskirts of the wreck by dusk on the 3rd day, only to find it swarmed by scavengers, mutated bipeds with flesh that phased in and out of sync with the visible spectrum. Kayla's heart sank. If they've breached the data... "Then we get loud," Ria interrupted, flicking a switch on Mabel and offering her one of those lopsided grins Kayla now associated with impending chaos. "Let's get your science box. I've got bullets that want to be friends." As they prepared their approach, Kayla realized something strange. Beneath the sarcastic exterior, Ria had begun to believe in her. Not just as an alien oddity, or a walking science experiment, but as a person. And maybe, just maybe, Kayla was starting to believe in herself too. The wreckage site was worse than Kyla remembered. Jagged slabs of alloy plating jutted from the forest floor like broken ribs, half sunken into a swampy crater thick with creeping biofilm and threads of flickering static light. The vessel's core section, where the encrypted rift data was stored, now pulsed like a wounded heart, buried beneath layers of scavenger nests and something far worse, signal worms. Kayla's scanner confirmed it with a horrified chirp. They're here. Signal-consuming predators. They devour transmitted data like it's glucose and excrete low-frequency noise that corrupts electronics and memories alike. Rhea eyed the Isan, swarm of writhing, iridescent tendrils slinking over the wreck like vines made of bad dreams and static. So, shoot it then. If we fire, Kayla warned, they'll multiply. They feed off directed energy. We'll need to extract the core manually and silently. Rhea muttered something obscene under her breath, adjusted her grip on Mabel, and grinned. Fine. Silent it is. But the second one of them tries to hump my leg, I'm vaporizing it. They moved low and slow, Kayla leading with an interface. Spike, a tool she'd repurposed from a hull calibrator. Every step was a delicate ballet, Kayla disabling tendrils with ultraviolet pulses, Rhea clearing twisted debris with controlled, muscle-guided precision. For a moment, Kayla was back in the flow of science again, not fighting, just surviving with purpose. When they finally reached the data vault, the signal worms had begun to twitch and rustle, aware of intruders. Kayla's fingers trembled as she extracted the core, an obsidian orb the size of her heart, filled with encrypted schematics, frequency maps, and gravitational harmonics. Got it, she whispered. Let's move. The words were barely out of her mouth before the ground shook, and the sky above them folded. Not cracked, folded, like pages of a book flipping the wrong way through time. From the rift above, something descended with a howl like whales screaming through broken speakers. A colossus, vaguely bipedal, but constantly mutating. Bones jutted from vapor, its skin a patchwork of dimensions and laws of physics that didn't agree with each other. Colossus, Kayla gasped. A riftborn, intelligent variant. We're exposed. You think? Rhea snapped, already firing flares to distract it. Run, Sparkle Bambi. They sprinted through the mire, Kayla clutching the data core. Like a lifeline, while the creature tore through the remnants of her ship with a war cry that bent the trees inward. The terrain collapsed beneath them as they leapt into a canyon now filled with rushing floodwaters from a rainfall that hadn't existed a second ago. They hit the water hard, tumbling through whitewater chaos, bashing against submerged wreckage. Kayla screaming in Thalassa while Rhea tried to keep her afloat. It was cold. So cold the nerves in Kayla's arms began shutting down. She'd almost blacked out when she felt strong human arms hauling her onto a ledge. Rhea, soaked and furious, started pounding on her chest. "Don't you dare pass out on me, alien!" she shouted. "I dragged you across 6 impossible terrains, avoided psychic vultures, hugged a tree that bit me, and I am not losing you to a stupid space fever." Kayla blinked at her, coughing water, and managed a weak, flickering smile. Hugged a tree? It was consensual, Rhea deadpanned, then slumped beside her. They were safe. For now. The Colossus had retreated, uninterested in the canyon. As the adrenaline faded, Kayla noticed a change in the silence, an emotional stillness. She turned to Rhea, who was staring into the sky where stars flickered. In and out. "I had a sister," Rhea said softly. "An engineer. Smart, hopeful, the type who believed Earth could bounce back. She was on one of the early response stations. The rift swallowed it." Her voice cracked, but she didn't cry. "I stayed behind after that, to keep the nightmares from spreading. Maybe I failed, but maybe this stupid orb in your hand makes it worth it." Kayla, speechless, gently, reached out and clasped Rhea's rough hand in her slender, trembling one. "It does. I promise you it does." And in that silent canyon beneath an unstable sky, The alien and the soldier leaned into one another, not for warmth, but because against the impossible odds ahead, belief in each other was the only shield. They had left. The uplink station stood like a defiant scar against the shattered horizon, a relic of the pre-collapse world now teetering at the edge of unreality. Jagged support pylons arced into the sky like broken antennae grasping for a signal that barely remembered how to exist. The rift had grown, no longer a distant anomaly but a gaping wound just beyond the station, swirling with layers of dimension that blinked through incompatible laws of physics. Lightning stitched across it sideways, sometimes in colors Kayla's eyes couldn't interpret, sometimes in language. They had made it. Barely. Kayla clutched the core to her chest as they approached, her legs shaking, her mind fraying at the edges. Rhea kept close, rifle ready, eyes scanning the warped terrain with the intensity of a soldier guarding her last stand. The uplink chamber was partially collapsed, the relay tower above it pulsing weakly like a dying heartbeat. "How bad?" Rhea asked as Kayla analyzed the structure. "Worse than expected," Kayla muttered. "The stabilizer system's quantum core is degraded. We'll need to reroute the relay output through a modulated interface using both my tech and your improvised human solutions." Rhea gave her a crooked grin. "So basically, duct tape and alien magic." "Roughly accurate," Kayla nodded, then paused. "The rift, it's searching, reacting. It's not just expanding, it's aware." Rhea narrowed her eyes. "Like it wants something." "Or someone," Kayla replied. "Cognition resonance. The rift has begun aligning with sapient brainwaves. Thoughts affect the fabric. Belief, fear, memory, they alter its shape." "Great," Rhea muttered. "Reality's gone emotional." They worked quickly, Kayla embedding her crystalline stabilizer into the station's auxiliary relay port, while Rhea climbed through half-collapsed scaffolding to install the human equivalent. A fusion-charged grounding spike she modified from a rail mine. Time pulsed oddly. At one point, Kayla looked up, and Rhea was already finishing what should have taken an hour. At another, she blinked, and 10 minutes had vanished. The rift flared again, closer now. "It's adapting," Kayla warned. "If we don't transmit the data within the next few cycles, this entire zone will collapse. Earth's gravity field will destabilize. We'll be flung into a multi-dimensional orbit. Unlivable." "Copy that," Rhea grunted from above. "Setting the dimensional anchor now." Then she added under her breath, "If this works, you owe me a drink. Or 3,000 credits. Either's fine." Kayla smiled despite the tension. "I'll give you the coordinates to the Thalasi homeworld's best beverage synthesizer." "Sold." The moment the stabilizer linked into the station's uplink array, the rift responded violently. Tendrils of fractured light shot toward the station, collapsing sections of ground and peeling back sky like wallpaper revealing raw, unfiltered void. Kayla screamed as her skin flickered out of sync, part of her phasing through 6 spectra at once. Rhea grabbed her, anchoring her back with raw force and sheer will. "Stay here! Stay real, damn it!" Kayla's eyes refocused, just in time to lock the data core into the transmission cradle. A surge of energy burst from the chamber as the data shot skyward, wrapped in harmonized frequencies and stabilized by the dual-tech platform. The uplink lit up in a symphony of alien colors, and the sky, at least momentarily, stopped bleeding. The rift trembled, shrank, stabilized. The horizon held. Kayla collapsed, breath ragged, limbs twitching. Rhea dropped beside her, panting, scorched, bleeding from a dozen shallow cuts. "Did it work?" she rasped. Kayla looked up at the relay tower. "Yes, the signal's clean. The interstellar net received it. Reinforcements will come. They'll understand how to contain the spread now." Rhea leaned back against a support strut, wincing. "Hell of a day. Almost got eaten by a geometry tantrum, drowned in time soup, fought a reality worm, and now I get to say I saved the planet with an alien doctor." Kayla turned to her, glowing eyes softening. "You did more than that. You saved me. And You saved yourself. Yeah, well, Rhea sighed. Saving's easier when you've got something to fight for. The two of them stared into the rift together as it slowly pulled back. Less a monster now, more a wounded god settling into a temporary slumber. The future was still uncertain, the damage vast, and the road to recovery long. But for the first time since the collapse, Earth held. And on that fractured edge between chaos and cosmos, Kyla and Rhea sat side by side, not just as survivors, but as proof that even in the worst of worlds, connection could rewrite the rules of everything.